Welcome to the TD News. I'm your host, Brock Yordy. We're going to talk about El Nino and how it's going to impact the drilling and construction industry. A shadow is forming over the Pacific Ocean. Meteorologists are tracking a rapid climate shift that will have major implications for drilling, infrastructure, and groundwater projects worldwide. According to the latest models, there is an 82% chance of a powerful El Nino emerging by July, with 96% certainty that it will persist through winter. El Nino is a major climate pattern triggered when the Pacific trade winds weaken, pushing massive pools of warm water eastward. Because the Pacific Ocean is so vast, shifting its heat distribution acts like flipping a switch on the global weather scale. This isn't just a weather forecast. It's a warning of looming global water and power grid crisis that will test our infrastructure, our resources, and our engineering ingenuity like never before. So what does this mean for our job sites and our projects? It's going to be hot. It's going to be wet, and it's going to last through fall. First, expect extreme precipitation shifts through the southern region, which should brace for heavy rainfall and flooding, which can severely complicate site access and project timelines. I want you to think about those Gantt charts and liquidated damages drillers and construction professionals. Conversely, areas like the South Pacific and Australia and parts of northern United States will face severe drought conditions. This places immense pressure on our local aquifers and heightens the demand for reliable water wells. Here in the United States, the focus is also squarely on the western United States and its lifeline, the Colorado River, which we know is 15 million acre-feet of water. While El Nino can occasionally bring rain to Southern California, it tends to push the primary storm track away from the Rocky Mountains. That means warmer, drier systems with critically less snow. That snowpack is a lifeline and the basis to all reservoirs as it melts in the spring to feed the Colorado River. This supplies 40 million Americans and multiple tribal nations across the western United States. Second, we're looking at a record heat. This massive release of ocean heat could push global average temperatures to new highs, making worksite heat safety an absolute priority for your drilling companies and construction companies this summer. I want you to think about the 13,000 people that succumbed to heat-related deaths last year and how we look at it globally as 500,000 people. But what we don't know is how much stress on hearts and strokes and other situations were heat-related and they just weren't reported properly. Finally, expect storm alterations, including a quieter Atlantic hurricane season, but a spike in strong cyclones across the Pacific. We will keep a close eye on how the El Nino is shifting our projects and weather patterns here at the driller. And we also need to start thinking about our grid resiliency and groundwater and surface water resiliency. So what does this mean for water well drilling and geothermal drilling and all of our projects? When it comes to water, as surface water disappears and reservoirs like Lake Mead and Lake Powell not only supply 40 million Americans along with those tribal nations, it's also what's powering our hydroelectric. So as we hit historic lows, states are going to have to pump more groundwater. This is where private water wells are going to be heavily impacted. I want you to think about aquifer depletions. And as we looked at the Ogallala and how we look at the waters of the United States and how state regulatory groundwater rules versus federal rules, when do they intersect, when do they not? Unmanaged over-extraction of aquifers causes a rapid decline in what we have available. And this is going to impact private water wells. How did this happen? I want you to think about all of the cutting of red tape that we needed in the rush to secure all of these new infrastructures, these mining projects, these data centers, and water infrastructure. Those results in the dangerous push for policies aimed to cut that red tape for construction has impacted our ability to look at feasibility and how over time this is going to be a terrible situation. While expediting projects might seem necessary in a crisis, stripping away essential environmental oversight protocols has a direct and severe impact on surface and groundwater protections along with our environments. When we bypass rigorous standards designed to safeguard our environment during broad construction and massive drilling projects, we open the door to widespread, irreversible destruction of our subsurface and our resources. Fast tracking development and loosening the rules shouldn't mean fast tracking the degradation of communities' natural resources. If this seems like a collision course that we've talked about before here at the Newscast, you're absolutely right, because 3 years ago we started this discussion with the President's Council of Advisors in Science and Technology, PCAST, who warned us that this exact scenario was accelerating. Back in 2023, with the report being completed at the end of 2024, the PCAST groundwater report was highly significant because it brought a historically fractured local issue to the federal government forefront. It acknowledged that over half of the world's major aquifers were being depleted, with places like in the United States Central Valley taking a massive hit. That's 4.2 million acre feet of the Colorado River goes to California. That resort stressed that while the federal government shouldn't overwrite local water rights, it should urgently provide data, funding for that data, and to support the state agencies, because the rapid pace of the groundwater depletion crisis was outstripping our response. Look at what Dr. Reed Maxwell with Princeton and Arizona State, the interconnection between surface water and groundwater, as we looked at the waters of the United States debate and how it has been stripped back and forth 10 years to 10,000 years to resupply some aquifers. Fossilized groundwater is real. This is why it became an all hands on deck moment for groundwater sustainability and highlighted the severe shortage of skilled professionals when it comes to working in groundwater, working in subsurface, working in resources. And this is a problem we're still working to fix today. Because you know what? The only way we're fixing this is drillers and engineers and policymakers working together. The challenge is immense, but the solution lies in proactive, intelligent engineering. One of the most promising strategies highlighted both then and now, NGWA, AWWA, talk about these all the time, is managed aquifer recharge, which I want to challenge you right now, industry, no longer means deep aquifers and depleting aquifers, but all aquifers. We need to help Mother Earth manage surface and groundwater and intentionally engineer safe systems that are reliable to help replenish these aquifers. This crisis also highlights the deep connection between water and energy. Again, back to Lake Powell, back to Lake Mead. Reduced river flow means less hydropower, while water treatment, heating and cooling, power generation are going to continue to pump and consume massive amounts of water and electricity. Now consider the data center discussions that are happening now. This is why it makes sense for us to have low water energy solutions like thermal energy networks, ground source heat pumps, low megawatt power generation that is using supercritical CO2. Because as we harness and work with Mother Earth for that firm consistency of subsurface for heating and cooling and power generation, it's more critical than ever. Now that it's time for us as drillers, as engineers, as policymakers, as designers, as customers to help lead and build resilient, sustainable systems that are going to protect our most precious resources. Now that we've hit total depth on El Nino and how it's going to impact groundwater, surface water, and power generation, I'm your host, Brock Yordy, and this is the Driller News.